Hi, I'm an Australian guy living here in Belarus, and I typically believe that Belarus is quite underrated as a society and as a civilization, but there are things that do annoy me, and this might be as much to do with me as anything, but the two things that really annoy me about Belarus, one is that there still is quite a bit of paperwork. Now, I do understand that this has improved a lot and has been streamlined a lot compared to maybe 10 years ago. But there's still a fair bit. So for example, I'm on a student visa, right? So if I want to leave the country, keeping in mind that 200 or 300 kilometers in any direction and I'm out of the country, right? So if I want to get out of the country, I'd be allowed to leave. Not talking about visas for other countries, but to be able to leave this country for the Belarusian guard to let me out, I need what's called an exit visa. And now to get this exit visa, I must follow this process. I must go to the university and request a letter of recommendation that I should be allowed to leave the country. Yep. Then I come back maybe 3 or 4 days later, and that letter is ready for me. So there's 2 trips to the university. Now I have this letter of recommendation, I now need to take it to the migration department. The location of the migration department depends on where you live. So for me, it's a nice 15-minute taxi ride headed out into the west of Minsk. So I go to migration, and because there's not that many short-term stays here and whatever, and not a lot of people going outside, at the moment the queues at migration are quite short, so that's good. Maybe I'll be there for 15 minutes, maybe an hour, kind of max, right? Whereas back in the day it might have been six hours or something. But now it's fast, that's good. And then I give them my passport, and then I've got to come back next week. And I pick up the passport with the exit visa in the passport. And then I can go out booking my holidays or whatever I'm doing, right? So there's 4 different steps to being allowed to leave, and also paying money along the way, by the way. So this is quite annoying. Look, it's not the end of the world, but it's something you wouldn't have to deal with, I think, in most countries, just to be able to leave the country. The second thing that I don't like about living here in Belarus is the lack of street food. And I've been watching a few street walking videos of different cities that I'll be visiting in the next few months outside of Belarus. And I'm seeing this kind of vibrant street culture, which you don't kind of get here. And they have the room for it, right? Whenever you watch me walking around the city, you see there's big, wide footpaths. There's a lot of room here. Now, of course, if you let anyone just set up on the footpath and start selling stuff, things can get messy, that's true. But it's kind of nice to have that variety, I think. And to be fair, here in Belarus, food isn't particularly cheap. Yeah, I mean, a restaurant meal for the most simple restaurant, you're probably looking at an entry price of $5 up to maybe $10 just for kind of simple food, you know what I mean? So it's not super cheap like a lot of comparable countries, comparable by GDP per capita. You're probably able to get meals for half of that. So I think if they did introduce some street food, as well as making things a bit more interesting, it would maybe help to bring down the price a little bit of food. Now, I'm aware that there are what's it called, a sandbox or a sandpit, I feel what they call it. There's a few of these kicking along, which are doing quite well and are quite nice and are fun to visit. But it's not quite the same, as you might get with some kind of hardcore street food. So they're 2 things I don't like. Look, to be honest, I was going to make these 3 things that I don't like about Belarus, but I'm kind of struggling for the third one. So they're the 2 things that I don't like about living here in Minsk, Belarus. So I'm currently on Prospect Nezavisy Mosty, which is this long road that has gone by many names over the years. This is north. That's kind of Victory Square, just at the end there. I'm currently on station 116 or 216, depending what line you're on. Oktoberskaya. It's where the red and blue lines meet. If you're ever in Minsk, this is where we are right now. So I'm going to walk south here, head towards Ploshka Lenina, or Lenin Square in English. So I'll go for a bit of a stroll, let you guys have a look at what's around. I'm aware the traffic's very loud and kind of drowning me out a little bit. Let's walk a little bit away from the edge of the road. As you can see, the first thing you'll see, of course, is this footpath. Now, this, of course, this whole city was built post-World War II by the Belarusian communists as a part of the Soviet Union. So they really made this central street, which has gone under many names since it was built. they really made this as a showcase. Of course, you can see 3 or 4 lanes going either way, and this is probably one of the widest footpaths or sidewalks that you'll ever see in your life. And it's very well kept, as you can see. No rubbish anywhere, no graffiti anywhere. It is not, there's no narrative around that, you know. McDonald's, of course. I think this is Lennon Street. Yeah, it is, there it is, Lenina. There's a museum up that way. This is good to see. Let's go under here. So to get under this street, we'll just walk under. It's underpass. This is one of the hot spots. If you look on the map of Minsk, this is kind of one of the more populated areas or more commercially dense areas of Minsk. Let me just straighten my camera a bit here. That's better. So what I'll do is, which way should I go? Do you want to see Prospekt Nezavisimosti or do you want to see Marks Street? What I'll do is I'll walk up here because it kind of gets a bit quieter here. Prospekt Nezavisimosti, just for a little while. There's a bus stop just here. It's actually the reason I know this spot so well is because when I first moved to Minsk, this is where I lived. Above Gum, this is one of the government-owned retailers here. People joke that it's like the Soviet shop. It's actually quite good because I was trying to buy some clothes a couple of months ago and I was going to all the places in the malls, all the kind of fast fashion places. And the problem is you're getting this kind of stuff that's in fashion for 3 months, you know. And although you go into Gum here and, you know, there's a mixture of older fashion and younger and older person's fashion, of course, but a lot of it's kind of timeless. So you can see here, discounts on different days. So Thursday to Saturday, anything above 5 rubles will be 35% discount as a starting point. So there's a couple of these. There's this Gum, and then there's Tsum, which is about 2 kilometers back up north there to Tsum, which is another Soviet kind of style. Well, it's not Soviet, but you know, the locals kind of call it that. The young people call it that, trying to make fun of it. So it's more of a traditional kind of department store is what you're getting from it. So what I think I'll do is, I won't walk up here, I'll actually turn around and I'll go up Marks Street. So Marks Street's kind of like the trendy little cafe street. And I'm mainly going to do this because this street's quite loud, the one I'm on now, because of the high volume of fast traffic. It just makes things a lot less pleasant for you guys. Me having to kind of half yell over the traffic. So I'll duck down here, turn right again, and I'll walk down Marks Street. And of course Marks Street is indeed Karl Marx Street, if you could imagine. And at the bottom of Karl Marx Street, in a few minutes, you'll see the place to be seen in Minsk. This is where all of the people who are more image conscious, looking for those Instagram photos, looking to kind of be seen in the right place, this is where they go. So you got around, I don't know, 5 or maybe 7 cafes and restaurants all lined up there. And you get the beautiful people of Minsk. People who are, as I say, more prioritise image more is what you kind of get there. So let's go for a walk down there. On the way we go past other cafes and universities and so forth. So currently we are headed east. If you're trying to get your bearings, maybe you're following me while walking in Minsk. Maybe you're trying to figure out where I'm on the map. But I'm about to hit the intersection of Lenina and Marks Street. It surprises me actually, I've had a few old lefties old commies from the West take exception to me putting any criticism on communism and trying to pretend that the Soviet Union failed because of Americans. It's quite remarkable. I'm not one that has total trust in the American empire, believe me, but it's incredible that these kind of narratives still exist, these old lefties, these kind of hacks who, you can kind of pick them a mile off. They're kind of probably in their 70s by now, most of them, and they kind of don't really dress properly, don't really believe much in personal hygiene. So I've been approached, you'd be surprised with my humble number of subscribers, I've been approached a lot here in Belarus, mainly by foreign guys saying, hey, you're the guy from YouTube, we have a bit of a chat, maybe a coffee sometimes. Some guys just want to say hi, some want to hang out. But I had one that was quite angry at me the other day. One of these kind of older lefty guys, I think he was from England. But to be fair, I really aggressively shut him down. And that kind of ended that, but yeah. So I'm on the corner of Marx and Lenin. So communist dreams. There's K. Marxa. I'll get in there. Marxa. K. Marxa. So we'll head south here. As always, a lot of e-scooters sitting around. They're very, very popular. So this is a much more narrow street here. It's north-south. We're headed south. And we're headed down towards a trendy cafe district, which is kind of the next block, I think. Now you can see a lot of young people here. That's because there's a university just here on the right. I think it's BSU. I could be wrong, to be honest. I don't pay that much attention. I don't even pay much attention to my university, to be fair. I have a feeling actually it could be the Economics University. Let's have a look at what we see. I'll slow down here. I'm just in a bit of traffic, so I'll try and walk through without being too much interference with the world. Show you what's going on here. So it's got a couple of universities in one. This is obviously the main entrance here to this university. That girl found this comment quite funny. Let me zoom back out again. Wonder if there's you can just walk straight through. Interesting, because at my university you actually need to have a card to swipe through for security purposes. This one you can just kind of walk straight in. You'll notice quite a few Chinese students here. Probably notice quite a few there. There's quite a lot of Chinese students here in Belarus. One of my closest friends is a Chinese girl. We hang out quite a bit. She's a funny one because, you know, you guys, if you know much about Chinese culture, you know that it's one of the more closed cultures. It's one of the more kind of watertight cultures, least westernized, less affected by the outside world. As a general rule, that's changing, of course, to some extent, but certainly one of the more closed cultures, I would say, in terms of the better known countries around the world. And my dear Chinese friend, she told me that, and she's in her 30s, right? She's probably low 30s, and she refuses to tell me actually, but she's low, maybe 32 I guess. And she told me that before she came to Belarus, she's doing a PhD here. Before she came to Belarus, she thought all foreigners were the same, which is interesting to hear. Didn't really distinguish that there's different cultures. There's just Chinese and non-Chinese, and that's no disrespect to her. She's a lovely, lovely lady. Very polite and civil, and a very moralistic person. But just didn't know. But anyway, the Chinese get around in terms of studies. They obviously, probably if you're in a Western country, you're very familiar with them. Certainly in Australia, you have many, many, many. I taught at a university in Melbourne, and I had many, many Chinese students. I'll say some classes of like first year classes, often 50% Chinese. So they really respect education, they're all about the education, and they're all about going abroad to get that education as well. As I say, it's interesting that they're here in Belarus in quite large numbers. I really didn't expect Chinese to be here, but they are. Actually, I've had a few Chinese guys out of the number of guys that I've had approach me in the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks. A couple have been Chinese actually as well, and also one Filipino. You might have seen that if you know Tito, I think it's Flores, I think his name. He's got quite a big channel, I think 3,000 subscribers or something. We had commented on each other's videos before, and then I was just walking on Namiga the other day and I hear this, "Oh, are you Australian? Are you on YouTube?" And I'm like, here's another one. I'm like, cool, because I think it's fun. I think it's awesome that someone's checked out a few of my videos. They're probably having a very similar experience to me, and you get to connect with someone who's not through your normal networks. So I see it as a good opportunity to meet people, and it was Tito. So if you want to see some more content from Belarus, Tito is living here with his Belarusian girlfriend, and he was telling me they're going to move to the Philippines in the next year or two, seeking out warmer weather. So it's starting to get down to the kind of the hot spot here. Probably about 30 or 40 meters from some of these more popular cafes, and then it's kind of pretty hot for about 100 meters. So I'll try and walk down, slow down without being too creepy about it. Just gonna have a look at what's going on. Of course, it's kind of, as I film this, it's late September 2022. So things are just cooling down a bit. You can tell obviously if you're alert enough. If you're watching this, you're obviously someone who's into details, so you'll notice that people are wearing coats and so forth, but nothing too heavy, generally speaking. Nothing, no gloves, no headpieces. So it's telling you it's probably around, I think it's 12 degrees at the moment, so there might not be quite as many people. You see this here in Kali, a very popular restaurant here. There's so many of these. Of course, named after the Kali bun things there with the soup and meat inside. Very delicious. Kali. So typically, if this was summer, these seats would be all full. People drinking coffee, drinking cocktails, but yeah, oh wow, I can't believe how empty it is. Crazy. These would be all full. You can see a few people up here, a few older guys just hanging out. This is one of the more popular places here as well. Oh, no, I have been here actually. Yeah, usually this would be full. You'll be able to get a seat out here. This was summer warm weather. It's actually not a bad day today. It's quite mild and decent. It's not windy or rainy or anything. At least not yet. Usually these would be all full as well. You notice these here, little blankets. This is very common here in Belarus. It's the sort of culture we can just have these out here. People won't steal them or break them or tear them or anything, but they're just, if you're a bit cold, wrap the blanket around you. It's a very Belarusian thing actually, which I think is very homely and very nice. This is one of your main places here. This is Paul's, well not here, but this next one here is Paul's. There's several Paul's around. I think they're French actually. So yeah, this would usually be pumping. Last time I was down here about a month ago, it would be absolutely pumping. But inside you probably see a few people floating around inside here. But yeah, in the summer, this would all be full of beautiful young people. Paragraph, there's quite a few paragraphs around as well. This one is very much a university cafe. Uni students tend to go here. They haven't even got the tables out today. It's quiet enough. It's the kind of atmosphere in here that quite often in the winter, people just set up here in Paul's. They just go in, maybe a group of 2 or 3 young students with their laptops, get a coffee, and they sit there for 5 hours. That's pretty much how it works. You see the blankets here as well. Again, very Belarusian thing. People are responsible. They'll just use them, fold them up and put them back. They won't get stolen or damaged in any way. People are very careful. And, good temperaments here, so there's no problems there. So that's the hot spot there, Mark Street. If you did come between kind of May and August, I guess. I'll try to get across there. And this one in the corner as well. And actually on the other side there, that's very popular, Café de Paris on the opposite side. Let's get across. Turns out we got, oh goodness, some roadworks here. Let's maybe walk around that. It's so loud. There's cement flying everywhere. Let's walk back up this way. It's Milano there as well. It's crazy to see all these seats empty. It's just like, it's like it's not like Paris. You know how Paris they have the whole, there's some cafes that just have the seats like fronting outwards so that you're just watching the crowd, you know, watching people walk past. They don't do that here in Belarus, but there's an element of that in feeling. Like people are sitting there watching people go past, and the people going past are watching the people sitting there. So it's kind of like Paris, but kind of not. Not as formal in terms of just facing the chairs to the foot traffic. So we'll be getting back up here to Prospect Nezavizi Most. Again is your main street. We're kind of halfway between Oktoberskaya and Ploshka Lenina metros, between 115, 116 on the blue line. You go right to Oktoberskaya, which is that major kind of crossover station. To the left is Ploshka Lenina. Might leave it here for today, ladies and gentlemen. 7% ladies, 93% gentlemen is what YouTube tells me the gender breakdown of my YouTube traffic is. There's Ploshka Lenina just over there. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a like. It actually helps me out a lot. You'd be surprised how much the algorithm responds to likes. So give me a like. If you're subscribed, thank you. Do enjoy my content. If you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. I'm nice and flexible with what I can do. And if you're not subscribed, you made it all this way and you enjoyed the content, you probably should subscribe and get all of my existing content and much more in the future. All right, adios for today.